What's up, guys? So last time we talked about just being aware when you're trying to lose fat and kind of avoiding this idea that you need to be kind of aiming for this crazy, really low body fat levels that people like to kind of idolize from others online or whatever it may be. But this time we're going to talk about the opposite. So putting on weight, putting on muscle, and really overemphasizing the amount of food that you're eating and the amount of weight that you're trying to put on, the weight that you're aiming for. So we'll start off by going over that. So I think a lot of people, they always have this number in mind that they want to hit in terms of weight, just like in fat loss. But I think typically when it comes to the muscle building phase, people they want to hit this set number of weight, and especially early on. This is mostly early on, but like I said, people have this number and they'll do anything to get there as fast as possible. And I know plenty of people that have gone through this, even myself in the beginning, which, like I said, it's pretty normal in the beginning. But I'm kind of just making this so people can kind of avoid these mistakes. But I think some people are inevitably going to make these mistakes. But just for the few people that maybe catch on, this can help them out. But I think it's really important to not worry so much about the weight, the number, and really just try to focus on kind of dialing down everything else. So whether it's your recovery, your sleep, your training, especially your technique in your training, and maybe the quality of food that you're consuming, and really kind of focusing on a small surplus rather than a huge surplus, so you can get to that weight that you're aiming for faster. Because I'll also kind of segue into this other thing where people like to be in these huge surpluses to get to these weights faster, as I was saying. But it's really important to kind of understand that when you're in any kind of surplus, you're obviously inevitably going to gain weight. But just because you're consuming this extra way crazy amount of calories, almost dirty bulking, doesn't mean that it's all going to magically turn into muscle. If only that's how it worked, but it's not how it works, unfortunately. But I think it's really kind of important to learn what a good surplus is, or maybe if you're just starting off, you don't really need a surplus. I think for the first 2 years at least, you can probably get away with being in the maintenance phase and kind of recomping. So for those of you that don't know what recomping is, it's recomposition. Pretty much you're able to lose weight or lose fat at the same time while you're building muscle. The reason because of this is because your body is not used to kind of any kind of stimulus with resistance training and your weight training. And obviously you're able to lose weight as well because you'll be in a slight calorie deficit or maybe in a maintenance, depending on your current state of body composition. So where you're standing, how much body fat you have. So obviously if you have higher body fat, it'll probably be more beneficial if you're in that slight calorie deficit. But vice versa, if you maybe don't have as much body fat or you have a moderate amount, then you could be in that maintenance phase where you can take advantage of both sides. But like I said, this is only for those that are in the first 2 years of training, give or take. But after this, you'll probably, if you want to continue building more muscle, which I'm sure a lot of people do, you'll probably want to be in a little surplus. So personally, I like to be in anywhere from 100 to 300 in a surplus. So 100 to 300 calories above maintenance. So you're doing this kind of surplus and you are gaining weight, but it's going to be really slowly, and This is why it's really important not to focus on the number, because this is going to kind of get in your head and you're going to think that you're not really putting on muscle, but you really are, which is another thing I want to talk about. When you're really focusing on the training and kind of dialing down everything so you can optimize that training, you're learning everything you can to kind of be efficient with your training and be efficient with your recovery and pretty much everything that you can do to kind of build that muscle, then you kind of put yourself in a better position, because the weight kind of slowly goes up because you're just focusing on all these things that matter most. Because the weight won't always go up. You're gonna hit a wall at some point, and I do want to kind of mention that as long as your training is going really good and you're consistently trying to progress, you're consistently progressively overloading, then you're building muscle. There's no way around it. If you are consistently putting more stress on your body from that stimulus, from lifting heavier, from doing more reps, from doing more sets, from doing a exercise more like properly with a better technique, or maybe you feel something better, you're improving your mind-muscle connection, you're gaining muscle. You will gain muscle, and although it will be at a slow rate, because I'm sure a lot of people know building muscle is a way slower process than fat loss, way slower by far. But another thing is patience. People have to learn how to be patient. Just like in fat loss, it's no different in muscle building, because it's honestly way worse. You have to be really patient because it takes a lot of time if you're not anywhere near your beginning stages of training. You're gonna have to be patient, because the progress is gonna slow down tremendously after this 2-3 years. But this is why you have to kind of get used to and really learn everything you can. And like as I was saying in the fat loss video, you have to be open to trying things out and seeing what works for you, and kind of putting in the effort. That's the main thing, putting in the effort and being consistent with everything. Something I forgot to mention, obviously, when you're in this crazy surplus that a lot of people like to be in, I do want to mention that if your goal is to just be strong and become the strongest person you could be, then being in this crazy surplus, is okay, I guess, because obviously you're gonna have that extra energy from this crazy surplus. But I'm only speaking on those that want to look good and want to build muscle. So any kind of crazier surplus than 100 to 300, well, let's just say 100 to 500, anything kind of small to moderate. Anything above this is gonna just become fat inevitably. It's all gonna turn into fat, and you're gonna have to diet it off. And the longer that you do this for, the longer that you're gonna have to diet for. And obviously, I know a lot of people don't like to diet. I don't like to diet. Nobody does, honestly. So if you can kind of minimize the amount of diet that you're doing, it's better for everyone, So, but as I was saying, if you can kind of prevent a lot of this fat accumulation, then why wouldn't you? And this is with the fact that when you're in this crazy surplus, you don't gain any more muscle than when you're in that little small surplus. You gain about the same amount of muscle. However, with that bigger surplus, you gain more fat, as I was saying. And I think being somewhere in the middle or somewhere in that lower end where you're not gaining as much fat, I think, in my opinion, that's probably the most beneficial place to be in. But don't get me wrong, the longer that you're bulking for, even if you're at that small surplus, you're gonna end up kind of accumulating fat over time because of obviously insulin resistance and whatnot, and your body's just gonna kind of get tired of eating all that food. But that's when you simply take a break and you kind of do a mini cut, and you get back on the bulk. But everyone has their own way of going about it. But if you guys are wondering and are kind of maybe want a video of what to do maybe when you kind of get to that, when you're too fat, or maybe you want just a video on how to run a bulk like properly, step by step, then I'll do it. Whatever you guys want to see, please let me know.